You're listening to Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall on CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, the gloves are off. Valerie Plante and Francois Legault, primarily over this whole housing story and the money allocated in the budget, which the mayor's calling woefully inadequate. So what do you think?
Well, I mean, housing is the proverbial last straw. But it's so funny because there was a time in relations between the city of Montreal and whatever government was in power in Quebec. I think after Drapeau, a lot of successors to Drapeau would try to adopt his way of appearing, at least, to be absolutely neutral, nothing good or bad, just look for the interests of the city. But the one thing that kept coming up, whether it's, it's Jean Doré or Pierre Bourque or Gerald Tremblay, it is, and now Valerie Plante, they want more money. They always want more money. But this time it's not sort of couched in a how can I put it, a diplomatic wrapping paper.
Yeah.
It is flat out in the face. It was clear that Madame Plante was extremely disappointed because this is for real stuff, as she pointed out. The housing crisis is not some abstract. These are real people we're talking about. And even though Quebec City, and she was echoed on this by several mayors, including Bruno Marchand in Quebec City, it's great in Quebec City to say this and this and this about various dossiers. We're on the front line. We have to deal with these people. We have to find some kind of a way to alleviate their problems and occasionally their suffering. And it was interesting to hear her say, we, and clearly not referring to the provincial government, are going to have to try and fix this ourselves. Will it make a difference in terms of how the CAQ government thinks of Montreal? Absolutely not. The CAQ government is not going to be shamed by Montreal, if only because Montreal barely has any representation in the National Assembly under the CAQ banners. So politically speaking, Montreal is irrelevant to Francois Legault and company. All that said, Montreal is Francois Legault's, Quebec's, and let's face it, every other administration that preceded Legault, Montreal is the ATM of Quebec. Its economic development has to be maintained. And if it's being distracted with housing crisis, if it's being distracted with insufficient funding for public transit, then guess what? This is going to affect Montreal's performance as a cash printing machine. And that's the last thing Francois Legault or any other Quebec premier wants. Maybe, there's always the posturing in the 24, 48 hours after a budget gets tabled up in Quebec City. And then, a week passes, 2 weeks passes, and someone picks up the phone and says, oh, listen, how can we deal with this? How can we make this right? Things will happen. But it's interesting to see that now the tone has become far more shrewd, far more loud, far more obvious. And I think to a certain extent, Valerie Plante and her colleagues on the municipal scene have been influenced by the style of Francois Legault, which is essentially, shoot from the lip and, we'll deal with the consequences down the road. But I haven't heard a mayor talk about a regime or about a premier the way Madame Plante did today. I haven't heard them be that upfront in terms of their disappointment, their frustration, and their decision to say, listen, you guys aren't going to help us, we'll try and go it alone.
But, he threw it back at her to some degree today, too, right? When he said, look, he made a joke about talking to his finance minister saying that money was available, and when you go back and look at it a year later, it didn't get spent. So that's not the province's fault, that's the city's fault. And some people have suggested that's a problem as well. Well,
I'm not going to dispute the fact that money, when it gets moved to Quebec, whether it's like every cent that comes into Quebec goes to the provincial government. And the provincial government is just one giant, formidable bureaucracy. However, that bureaucracy pales in comparison to the bureaucracy that has been created for the city of Montreal. The city of Montreal has a bureaucracy, never mind the Nation Québécois, it's the Nation Montréalais.
Yeah.
I mean, when we consider the ponderous way Montreal is governed with its own little fake House of Parliament and speakers and government leaders and oppositions and whips. It's so preposterous when you look at Montreal versus another, let's say, world-class city. Oh, let's just say New York, okay, with its 44 city councilors as opposed to Montreal's 104, including borough councilors. It's not that big a mystery as to why nothing gets done, or at least nothing gets done quickly.
On time,
and so there's plenty of blame to go around. There'll be finger pointing, but the bottom line here is they are still coming up short on affordable housing. And when we see some of the fallout from this infamous Airbnb horror, it's clear that it's not for a lack of supply, it's a lack of availability. And who knows whether the government is actually, either level of government is going to step up. It's great for Madame Plante to say we're going to crack down on Airbnbs. In the end, it's going to take provincial regulation. And it's another example, I think, and I was listening to you guys talking to Chris Demakos before, it's another example of how there was a huge legislative vacuum for Airbnbs or Uber or whatever, because the government simply can't keep up with the change.
I feel like none of this hurts Legault, though. I feel like, it's not going to stick to him. It's not going to cost him anything. He can criticize the mayor. He can criticize everything as much as it costs him nothing.
Listen, it's not about Legault, Natasha. It's about the fact that the opposition to this government is almost perfectly divided into like four groups, And as long as that situation exists, until these, some elements of the opposition get together and can add up at least to 40%, which is what the CAQ has, it's going to be the same. You're right; it doesn't affect him, but it's not because of some mystique that or some brilliance on the part of François Legault. I'm sure he's a fine fellow, but what he has on his side are the numbers. As long as we have this urban-rural split, as long as we have these two Quebecs that coexist, and these days not that peacefully alongside each other, we're going to be having this conversation not just about budgets but everything else. And it's a sad situation because right now everyone should be pulling in the same direction.
Look, I don't know that we need to talk about this, but I'll bring it up for last time. The situation in Ottawa right now, I can't help but wonder, Jim, if, day to day, we now know that Katie Telford is in fact going to appear. At some point, the stuff that doesn't stick to Justin Trudeau, I think, is going to start sticking to him. Do you agree with that or not?
I would respectfully disagree, Aaron. I think if they keep spinning their wheels on this and do so in such a dramatic and operatic fashion, people are going to zone out. As it is, the latest Angus Reid has got the Tories dropping by 2 points, even though they're in the middle of this maelstrom of, the interference crisis and so on and so forth. People have a lot of other things on their minds, and whereas it's great to have, this whistleblower, we have this scoop and that scoop, unless something happens very, very soon, where you can point to it and go, aha, the wheels are going to come off of this thing. I absolutely guarantee it.
All right. James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Adam.